of the Kybalion by 3 initiates. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The 7 Hermetic Principles. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these, understandingly, possesses the magic key before whose touch all the doors of the temple fly open. The Kybalion. The 7 Hermetic principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are as follows. 1. The principle of mentalism. 2. The principle of correspondence. 3. The principle of vibration. 4. The principle of polarity. 5. The principle of rhythm. 6. The principle of cause and effect. 7. The principle of gender. These 7 principles will be discussed and explained as we proceed with these lessons. A short explanation of each, however, may as well be given at this point. 1. The principle of mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and, in short, all that is apparent to our material senses, is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as a universal, infinite living mind. It also explains that all the phenomenal world or universe is simply a mental creation of the all, subject to the laws of created things, and that the universe as a whole and in its parts or units has its existence in the mind of the all, in which mind we live and move and have our being. This principle, by establishing the mental nature of the universe, easily explains all of the varied mental and psychic phenomena that occupy such a large portion of the public attention, and which, without such explanation, are non-understandable and defy scientific treatment. An understanding of this great Hermetic principle of mentalism enables the individual to readily grasp the laws of the mental universe and to apply the same to his well-being and advancement. The Hermetic student is enabled to apply intelligently the great mental laws instead of using them in a haphazard manner. With the master key in his possession, the student may unlock the many doors of the mental and psychic temple of knowledge and enter the same freely and intelligently. This principle explains the true nature of energy, power, and matter, and why and how all these are subordinate to the mastery of mind. One of the old Hermetic masters wrote long ages ago, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." And these words are as true today as at the time they were first written. Without this master key, mastery is impossible, and the student knocks in vain at the many doors of the temple. 2. The principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. The Kybalion. This principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and phenomena of the various planes of being and life. The old Hermetic axiom ran in these words, as above, below, so above. And the grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many a dark paradox and hidden secret of nature. There are planes where we are able to understand much that would otherwise be unknowable to us. This principle is of universal application and manifestation on the various planes of the material, mental, and spiritual universe, as it is a universal law. The ancient Hermetists considered this principle as one of the most important mental instruments by which man was able to pry aside the obstacles which hid from view the unknown. Its use even tore aside the veil of Isis to the extent that a glimpse of the face of the goddess might be caught. Just as a knowledge of the principles of geometry enables man to measure distant suns and their movements while seated in his observatory, so a knowledge of the principle of correspondence enables man to reason intelligently from the known the unknown, Studying the monad, he understands. 3. The principle of vibration. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. The Kabbalion. This principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion. Everything vibrates.
Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen. This is Ceremonial Witchcraft at its best. Probably the best it'll ever be. Sorry about that. Just gotta make sure I get my levels right here. I'm trying to use a headset and a fucking headset with one of those microphone things on it. And there we go. Now they're nice and clear. Alright, well. So right now it's almost 12 o'clock on a Monday. My daughter's asleep. My wife's asleep. Most of my kids are probably sleeping. I got one candle here lit, and I'm going to try to read and keep going on what I need to talk about, I guess. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy. Ooh, my candle's fading. I can't see my fucking notes. But I guess before I start reading, maybe when this candle gets a little brighter again, I will get into my notes. But it's going to be the 7 Hermetic Principles and how to use them in magical systems, magical ritual, magical ways, basically, I guess. I might have to turn my fan off because I got that new heating system put in my house, like I said, and they're up high in the air. So I've always known that heat rises. Most people do. And if you have a fan on, I used to, as a kid, always ask, well, why are the fans on? Why are the fans on? It's wintertime. We got snow outside. It's minus 20. Why do we have fans on? And I was always told, well, heat rises and the fan pushes the fucking heat down. And that's why you keep a heat on. And, I keep a fan on. Likewise, you can always put it on reverse too in the summertime, and it'll help draw the heat up. And this way the cold stays low. Because I was also asked in the summertime, why don't I feel this fucking fan? It's, it's on backwards. It's not right. And, that's the answer I'd get as well. So, anyways, holding this mic up to my mouth might get annoying, so I might have to switch up and just use the phone. But, there we go. Anyway, so the law of mentalism, the law of correspondence, the law of vibration, the law of polarity, law of cause and effect, law of rhythm, and the law of gender, I believe are all 7. And these things are near and dear to my heart. Since I've gotten into magic, I've known about this. I've read and listened to the book, The Kabbalion by 3 Initiates, probably as recent as last week. And it's got to be at least 20 times. It's not one of those books that are my favorite because it's not like... It's profound the first few times you read it, when you realize how your life follows these things, these laws and these principles, because when you know the law of rhythm, when you know the law of cause and effect, when you know polarity, when you know them all, you can see how your life has followed these trends and how things have happened because of these things and how everything manifests. Even lately, when I'm actually using magic, I do money magic for a while. We get a surplus of funds, and then I stop. I work on transformation, and I won't be quite done the transformation, and it's like, well, money is tight again. And it's like, well, do I start doing money magic again to boost it back up, or should I just let it be? And there's always a choice that has to be made there. And actually, normally I just kind of let go, and I'll do some visualizations, some meditations, and, either the bills don't get so tight. I don't have to manifest money to pay off all the bills. I can manifest breaks in paying bills, or certain things get waived, certain fees get waived, certain things can be put on the back burner, and it's just as good, if not better, that way. And it's a way of using your magic. But once again, all this has to fall in line with the 7 Hermetic Principles. And in my last video, I was trying to make that clear that I'm at a spot in my life right now where I don't really do money magic. However, being off for 3 weeks, and depending on how long it takes unemployment to come in, and depending on how many places we can get a break from having to pay bills, I might need to do money magic. And that's kind of the whole premise on why I might make a program for Gumroad, so that I can sell people money magic instead of them having to go through all my 140, 50 fucking lessons / podcast I got, where, I could probably point them out to you, but I would also have to go through them, and it might be easier just to sell a $2, $3, $5 program. But doing the first program, it's going to be how to reprogram your mind, because I've often stated in my programs, and especially at the beginning of that, when you change your religious programming, your political programming, any programming as a child that got put in your mind that you need to be poor to be holy, or watched your family struggle, if this is in your head, that's what you're going to play out. If you remove that successfully and put in new programming, you can start earning money. As a child, my parents had a car and they owned a house. So for me to have a car and own a house, it's probably not a big accomplishment because it's in line with my programming. Likewise, if you're the type that your parents never owned a house or had a car, then it might be something harder for you to do. But if you can delete that program that's running in your mind, that's all you'll get, because that's what you saw as a child, and that's what you see as a child is what plays out. We follow our parents, we follow suit, we follow what they have, we get what they have. More than that, if you go to school and then you also hear other stuff, whether it's religious school or not, you get more programming put into you. But generally, the first 7 years of your life, first 5 years of your life, depending on the child, you followed and learned from your parents. The more they fought, the more you might fight with a partner. The more partners your mom or dad, whoever you lived with, had, if they weren't together, the more you might have. Likewise, if like me, your parents were together the whole time you were a kid, then you might only have long relationships until you finally get married, and then you might struggle in that relationship to make it work. But likewise, you have that programming in your head that that's how this works, that's how this goes, therefore that's what you need to do as well. And that's surely evident in mine and my sister's relationships. So it all kind of makes sense. And all I'm trying to do here is, I'm not going to try to remove anybody's programming that has anything useful, because if you want a house and you want a car, well then why would we remove that programming? But if it was attached to programming that you won't only have a certain amount of money or just make it by, well, we can alter that a bit. And it's simply put is, if we pull out that programming of you having a house and a car to put in that you can manifest money, well, great, you'll manifest money, but you might not get to keep your house and your car. So we want to reprogram you the proper way. We want to put in your mind that you're still going to have a house, you're still going to have a car, you're going to even pay it off even faster because of the extra money you'll be able to manifest. And that's what I want to teach. And I want to give some basics about that. I want to teach some of the NLP stuff I learned, how to persuade other people, but more importantly, like I said, your own mind, using specific words and language patterns and systems. Like, you see it all the time, especially now. They give you a fact, and then they throw the idea out there, but because everything they else said previous was true, well, it makes the rest true. And it's one of the most simplest way to get people to believe what you want to say. Likewise, it's an easy way to reprogram your subconscious mind, and there's many little techniques like that I've learned. So this is all going to be included in that program once I make it. But I'm pretty sure I've covered all this stuff within this channel, so it's not like I'm giving new information out. I'm giving you the same information, and the stuff I learned, the stuff I know, every person I've learned it from, I've also given the links and the names of all the people. So like this NLP stuff, most of it's going to come from the books I put for free on here, the PDFs and whatever episodes I put them on, but also I learned it from what's his name, I always saw something fucking world so-called the David something, anyways, I can't think of his last name, but when it comes to NLP and hypnosis, that guy is a fucking master. Not only that, I mean, the Taekwondo and the fucking shit you can learn from him it's unbelievable. But once again, same problem I have, except he has it, even more, because he's probably got like 1,000 videos on his thing. But you have to sift through quite a bit of content to get it, or go see one of his seminars, lectures, pay for a program, and you get it a lot faster. So once again, it comes down to that thing. Are you willing to spend time? Are you willing to spend money? Because either way, whenever you buy the program, you're going to have to spend time doing the programming. But if you're spending the 3 weeks or whatever time limit you have off because of this coronavirus thing, just trying to find the information that you think is going to free you, and what happens if it doesn't, or you get sidetracked, or you end up looking up something else thinking, oh, fuck this guy. That's why I want to offer something to I want to have something to offer. People, even though I'm selling it cheap because of the hard times, it doesn't necessarily mean it's cheap quality, but It's more because of the fact that people aren't working and they're probably not going to buy the product during this time period. But when everybody starts back at work and they don't want to be, when they realize that there's something more to this corona thing that's going on, this thing's happening for a fucking reason. And it's just because we're either ignorant, we haven't been taking care of ourselves properly, maybe it's nature rebalancing, maybe it was a government fucking, conspiracy. Who the fuck knows, but who the fuck cares? If you take care of your body, none of that shit matters. If you take in the right stuff, none of that matters. If you have the right spiritual discipline with the right exercise in the regular mundane world, and if you breathe and take in the right water and eat the right food, then nothing should worry you. I've been listening to a lot of Alan Watts, and according to what you see online, he died of a heart failure. 1971, one of his videos he put out after he went to the seminar in Los Angeles, and there was a bunch of crises. They wanted to figure out how they could tell the public about these crises, and they never came up with anything. Well, 2 years after that, he died in 1973. And, he doesn't look as old as his age. And if you look at his daughter, she's got some things out there as well. She's like 70-something in some of the things I just watched, and she doesn't look, she might look in like her 50s, maybe early 60s, but I don't really think so. I think it's more like late 50s. So these people don't age as fast, and I tend to believe that I'm of that same kind of line. And I think a lot of people in spirituality, a lot of people that are addicts as well, tend to do this, have this. We don't age as fast, but if we do start aging because we give up or we just stop caring, we age pretty quickly. But anyways, the point of what I was trying to get at is there's always been crises. There always will be crises. Sometimes it's just better to sit back and let it unfold and us all learn a lesson from it. Because the more we try to control nature or think conspiracies or what's going on or whatever the case is, the more we're going to fuck everything up because, we create with our minds. And if we start putting energy into things that we shouldn't be, well, what do you think's going to happen? But anyways, the law of mentalism is the first law. It's the law that explains that we are all in the mind of God. And this is where, you can read the first part of the book, and if you can't get past that and you think you know the 7 Hermetic Principles by just reading the little pieces, well, that's cool, and I'm glad you read at least that, but at the same sense, it's like, no, there's way more to the book than that. There's way more information you need to understand and know that it gets way more in depth at the end, but still, there's other things that you need to pull out of it yourself and realize yourself. Okay, so we are all in the mind of God, but the all, which is an important statement because it touches us. It touches on anyways, okay, I can't read my notes, it's too dark. Sorry. So anyways, I'll just go off the fucking fly here. What the statement, we are all in the mind of God, why is it important to me, and why does it help with your magic? Well, this one, the law of correspondences, I'm probably going to come back to on the whole how you've manifested in your magic, but I'm going to do a brief explanation here for those who think. Anyways, all being all in the mind of God tells us that we can create just like our Creator, but on a different level. As above, so below is part of the next one, which helps you understand this one. This is one of the reasons why I'm not going to start with this one right off the hop for the magic part, but I will explain. And so as above, so below, when you put that with the all is the mind, well, we are just like our Creator. We are the smaller version of our Creator, and we have smaller versions of us that we create, whether you think of that as your children, or if you are in a magical practitioner, you create entities and thought forms, which is something you really need to understand if you get into magic. But just that being said, is all of us are connected as well. So when you get into magic and you start manifesting, you are connecting through everybody's mind. That's how your magic plays out. Whether you're creating thought forms to go out there and change those people's minds, or create circumstances where they drop a bag of money or start liking somebody like you instead of whoever they were going to like, or whatever the case is, you are affecting people and everybody. Okay, everybody has this power to either protect themselves from it or do the same effect. But we are all in the mind of God, which means we are all a part of God, and whether you look at it as this is a dream world, even though it's pretty real to us, it's still a dream world, which means you can do what you want like in a dream. And you have to hone that. You have to own that. You have to be able to take that on. But with that comes responsibility, meaning that you're going to go and try to change a bunch of shit. You need to understand that if you don't change it correctly, there's going to be some drawback from that, some consequences, cause and effect. That's where this plays in. But what you need to understand before I talk about the magic part of this is that you have the power of our Creator, but within our realm, within our limitation. But you still have that power and that use of power that you can use it. But you are also going to affect everybody that you are connected to that you know of, and everybody and anybody that you may not know of will also be affected by you doing it. And that's why there's a certain amount of responsibility that comes with this. Now, I'm not saying that you don't dish out the pain once in a while, because sometimes maybe that's needed to teach a lesson, but I'm saying that if you're dishing out pain for no reason or just to prove that you're a powerful person, well, your power is not going to last very long. And I don't say that lightly, because I know there's some baneful people out there that do baneful shit just to be baneful, but once again, they're probably teaching lessons, and whether that's for me to teach you or that's for them to learn a hard fucking way, doesn't matter. But anyways, the law of mentalism states that we are all in the mind of God, that God makes us up and we're in His mind, just like we make up thoughts and they become real as well. Everything starts in the mind. Your statement of intent happens as a result of a thought you had previous to that. You wanted something, you needed something, you thought of maybe, doing something. And those thoughts, well, did they come from you? Well, that's hard to know. I've had many episodes on how thoughts aren't initiated from us, but yet they could be seen as they are, because when we dream, we don't pick our dreams, but yet it's coming from our mind. Therefore, it's coming from somewhere inside that we need to understand. But if you think about this on a bigger scale, all starts in the mind, Well, our mind is connected to our Creator, especially through the subconscious. Our Creator made us through thoughts. We are making other things through thoughts. Everything we create happens as of a thought, from a table, from a shoe, to an egregore, to you having kids, to you having that house. You first have to think that you have the house. More importantly, this comes back to the programming thing, All starts in the mind. If you've been programmed a certain way, then especially if that program states that you can't use magic, that magic's not possible, that magic doesn't exist. Well, how far do you think you're going to go with that programming if that's what is started in your mind? If you start already with the thoughts that you can't change your reality, that things just happen, that you are fated in a specific way, whether that's for you to get a disease and die, or be broke, or be a drug addict, or if that means you're going to be a success, doesn't matter. Whatever your programming is your limitation to a specific point. Now, this is not like limitation as in Saturn limitation, but it plays into that, and I'll get into that later. But what I'm saying is, if everything starts in the mind, then with your mind you can create your reality as you see fit. But you also need to understand that there's two types of magic, really. Well, no, it's not two types of magic, but anyways, there's two ways that I do, that I know of, that I use, that in a very vague, simple way to explain it is, there's what's programmed into us and what we can program into ourselves, the whole programming issue, There's that, and then there's simply just manifesting small things and doing things. Now, if you have a specific programming in your mind, well, you can manifest whatever's allowed within that. Now, once again, if your mind doesn't allow you to do things consciously, well, then it's just going to run the programs it has in it, because that's what it saw, and then we somehow receive programming after that saying that you can't use magic to program it, yet your mind is still, it's a very catch-22 fucking what's the word, like a fucking oxymoron, something that doesn't make sense. On one hand, it's saying you can't do something, yet at the same time it's doing that. So if you have programming saying you can't manifest your life, yet you're manifesting your life, everybody is. And that's just a simple fact, in my experience anyways, is because before you got that programming put into you that you can't do anything, because you didn't get that at a young age where you were just watching your parents. That's not when that was imported into you, depending on your parents. Your parent was a priest or fucking somebody of the cloth who, was able to have kids for whatever reason, or maybe he became a priest after he had kids. I don't know. Point is, depending on your age and when you receive that programming, you have to simply remove that. But that's part of all is mind as well, is the fact that the magic you do, you can maybe, that's why some people can do certain magics real easy and then other things they can't do easy, and it's just because whatever programming was put into them allows those things to happen, but not the other things. Therefore, if you want this, start your manifestation off with changing your programming. Don't start manifestation off with just, I want money, I want a business, I want this, and, no judgment, because that's what I did as well. I thought and the shit worked. Like I said, though, many times, I came from a family line where we talked about my grandmother being a witch, and Bruce Lipton and other people like that will talk about genetics, and within the witch community, let's just say, there's a lot of talk about blood witches, which, has not really been as popular, but there's still factions or still traditions, groups of people that if you're not of a certain blood, then you're not technically a witch, or you can't be part of their coven, or whatever the case is. But to me, the blood matters, but only to a certain extent, and I think it's more about it's about the programming, because if I never got that programming of my grandmother being a witch, then I probably wouldn't be here right now. I probably wouldn't have had the success I had at an early age, because I had the idea put in my head that it's okay, and more than that, it's possible within my family line to be able to do things like this, whether it's healing, whether it's manifesting, whether it's scrying, whether it's reading tea leaves, doesn't matter. I have that possibility put in me at a young age. It's just like if you never remove the programming that Santa Claus, that he's a real dude or whatever the case is. Well, if that's still in you, then, you're still going to believe in it. But that gets pulled out of us. And it's a hard process for a child to go through that. Well, that's similar to the process of when you pulled out old programming, you're going to go through that same fucking thing again. It's not going to be an easy fucking thing. That's why I want to teach that program during this time off, where everybody is off, or most people are off, and they could go through a process like that. Hopefully it doesn't dip into when they go back into work, but it's a perfect time to reprogram yourself, because you don't have to go to work and be all an emotional wreck and start tearing up for no reason, and something that reminds you of the old programming, and your mind's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, we used to believe in that, we don't believe in that anymore, what's going on? It's a fucked up situation to feel. But the all is mind plays into that. It's one of the biggest aspects, I think, of it that people don't really touch on. They touch on the fact that all is mind, we're all in the mind of God, we have inherent gifts from our God. All that's true and that's important. But I think it's the programming that is most important. Because like I said before, you remove programming of, money being of the devil, and you have to be poor to go into heaven. You remove that programming, you still stay, especially if you still believe in heaven. I'm not here to change anybody's beliefs, and I want to make it very clear that the programming that you think is in you, that you identify through a certain specific way, and I've given that way out on this channel, and I'm going to give it away again. Well, I'm going to put it on the program, but once you identify all your programming, good and bad, if you think the bad is attached to the good, well, when we redo that programming, that specific one, we remove everything there, but when we re-add with the new programming, we're going to restart, especially if you do the lesser banishing of the ritual of the pentagram with the archangel invocation at the end. For when I do my archangel invocation, I see where they all are, I see them in my mind, I see them with, Archangel Raphael is going to be holding the caduceus, right, with the two snakes. Well, after I make that star within me fucking bright as shit, I absorb all four of those guys. They come within my they come back within my body. And I think that's probably the way everybody should do it. But, that's all up to the practitioner. You can think they're outside of you, but all these things are within you. It's one of those things why I think the demonic evocation is these demons that everybody likes to talk about aren't just around us, they're actually within us, and the archangels are higher than them, and they can control them depending on how you look at it. But the demons don't have to be evil either, it's just the way they've been treated. And regardless of how you think the demons are evil or not, if enough people put enough thought and belief into them being demon, and there's enough books out there about them being bad, well then your first experience with them might be bad depending on where you're coming from. Anyways, it just all comes back to programming and how they've been programmed. Egregores are also programmed. The gods are also programmed. So we run these programs. We make these realms real for them. And when we die, or we have a DMT trip, well, we see these things. And you can say, well, that's the spiritual realm you're seeing. Well, how do you know that spiritual realm wasn't created by our thoughts? We can create like a creator. Therefore, we can create these realms, and maybe we can't see them here because he created this realm, but maybe the other realms we go on to are realms that we created. How do you know? No one could fucking know because no one comes back and tells us what's what. But anyways, there's more to DMT trips and more to what we create and just let be and don't take back or destroy or whatever after. There's a lot of things that have been created over time that we have no idea about. But anyways, correspondences, that teaches you a whole lot as well. It teaches you that everything corresponds to another thing, okay? Just like the Bible is played out over and over again. The Bible is played out over and over again through movies. Every movie is like a Bible story, okay? And even if within movies to movie, you can compare two different movies that have, maybe a guy and a girl, and then two guys, and then two aliens, and then two animals. But it could be the same story, from Lion King to Osiris and Set to fucking Cain and Abel. These are all the same things. As above, so below. It happens in the heavens, it happens on the mundane, it happens in the movie dimension, it happens in the spiritual dimension. That's where that is important, and that's how you should be doing your magic. If you're doing your magic, especially if it's planetary magic, and you're sending it out to the stars all the way to Jupiter or Saturn, and then it has to come all the way back, well, you are creating that limitation. You're creating that time frame for it to be slow. This is something I learned from Frater in one of his As Above, So Below videos. But if you think of Saturn as your root chakra or bottom chakra or somewhere else in energy within your body, wherever it is on your chart, wherever Saturn is in your chart, you find out what that body part that is. For me, it's in, I think, Capricorn or anyways, you figure out where that body part is on you, and you can figure out where your Saturn is, and maybe you can send it there instead, or maybe you can send it to the energies. Anyways, point is, you can find the correspondent and make it happen faster. You don't need to send it all the way to Saturn and back. You don't need to do that. You can find a similar correspondent. Likewise, if you're trying to word something and you can't word it correctly, well, there's another way to go about it. There's always another way. Whatever is happening isn't the only time it's happened, isn't the only way it's happened. It's happened somewhere else and probably everywhere else before that. All right. I guess another correspondent that comes to mind is another thing I learned from Frederick Xavier. When he teaches about black magic versus white magic, he's talking about banishing versus invoking, I guess, or when you invoke, you must evoke. Anyways, that's a little bit of birch, but using black magic, when he talks about it, he says he uses black magic, and people say, wait a minute, I thought you weren't supposed to use black magic. He says, no, I said not to practice baneful magic. Point is, banishing poverty is the same, is not the same, but it's a different way of going around getting money, having money. So if you're the type that has more negative aspects in your chart, let's say, like I do, I have more things in the water and earth, which would be the female or negative polarity, which is something I'll get into when I get into the law of gender and the law of polarity, dualism, and male and female. But point is, within both of those, you have negative and you have positive. Male being positive, female being negative, which is your plus and your minus. But I have more negative, so I have more luck with banishing poverty, or at least I did in the beginning. Now I can kind of do both. I can get money, I can draw money to me just as good as I can push poverty and bills and debt away. But it's one of the ways of using the law of correspondence. Anyways, to me, maybe this plays into the law of polarity, the law of gender a little bit more, but it's one of those things where how to use your magic using all the Hermetic principles. So when you banish and you invoke, you are kind of using the law of gender, you're kind of using the law of polarity, you're kind of using cause and effect, basically. Frequency, vibration and rhythm are a little bit different, but in the same sense, they still play in the same ways. But just to stay on the correspondence, I guess, for now, that's another way of wording something, right? Let's say you can't figure out a way to word something correctly to get enough money to pay your bills, or maybe right now you're not working and you don't can't leave the house, let's say. So the opportunity to make more money, get more money, is, not very well. But I mean, there's always the option of maybe going to the gas station when you have to gas up and buying a ticket, and if you did something to get money, well, yeah, maybe you'll win on that ticket if you can put it out of your mind, because it's very hard to do a sigil, do a ritual, write on a candle that you're going to win winnings or have random winnings, or ask Jupiter, thank Jupiter. I'm so grateful, Jupiter, for you expanding all my how would you word that? Anyways, basically not your regular income, but additional income that you're not, that you don't normally, that you're not creating through work. But anyways, just forgive me, I'm a little tired, but the point is, you can always do a spell for that, and then maybe you'll find money when you go out to get gas. Maybe you go to the bathroom and someone left a 20. Once again, like I said, someone has to lose that money for you to get that money, or you have to get that ticket. And this way, that at least with a ticket, with a lottery and all that, that's what it's meant for. You're just the lucky one that gets it that time. But other people had to not win that money, who may have needed it more than you. But once again, that's just for other people to figure out, because every time that you win using magic, and they don't, not using magic, it's just more reason for them to try to figure out how they should figure out how to win, and maybe using magic is something they need to look into. But anyways, if you're at home, you can always get a check from the government too. Maybe you fall into one of these categories and you're going to get one of these checks because of this corona stuff. I know here in Canada, there's like an $86 billion fund he has, or by he, I mean our Prime Minister, that he's going to be giving out to people. And, I've fallen into a couple categories so far. We get some extra money in May for our children, and then there's something else we were already eligible for that we got. So, kudos to Trudeau, I guess, for that. But anyways, point is, if you can't do something to try to draw money to you, or manifest money, then you can always use the dark side of the moon and the darker planets to banish poverty. This way, all the poverty that's going to come to you, because don't be fooled and think poverty is not something that can come to you. It's not. It's a concept, it's an idea, yes, but it's been created, and it's something that's real. And if you have programming that allows you to be poor, well, then banishing poverty is going to be a good thing. But it's not going to be sufficient enough, because unless you get rid of that programming, you're going to continually need to banish poverty. But still, by banishing that poverty and invoking that you are a lucky person, creating that identity of being a lucky person is definitely a good way to go, which also plays in the law of correspondences. But, as above, so below. You take on a deity with your mind that is a deity that allows you to be a lucky person. You take on a deity that allows you to be prosperous, that allows you to get wisdom, that allows you to get love. All right, well, then that's going to trickle down to you, because as above, so below. If you are following and worshiping a deity that doesn't allow those things, that allows you to be poor, but then you're going to get into heaven. Well, if heaven doesn't exist, then you're fucked. If heaven does exist, well, then, all right, keep being poor. But anyways, this is another way for using the law of correspondence, as above, so below. You take on deities that you want attributes of yourself to have, that they can offer. If it's Thoth, Mercury, somebody that can give you wisdom, Archangel Raphael, or anything of equivalent of him that can give healing. You want that to trickle down on you. That's using the law of correspondence, just like I was trying to say. Instead of invoking lots of money, because you still have to spend that money. The more money you have, the more you got to spend. But if you banish your poverty, well, then maybe you're banishing your debt, and you don't necessarily get any extra money, but you don't really need to spend the money you do get on a bunch of crap, therefore needing the extra money. It's a good way to look at the law of correspondence, instead of just asking for the traditional things that everybody asks for, the things you think you need. If you remove the things that you think you need, then you're removing the need to have those things. It's not really making much sense there, but I know what I mean. I'm just having trouble saying it. Basically, what you're doing is, like, if you like eating Big Macs and fast food and stuff that's not healthy for you, well, right now, if you can't go get that, that's going to suck, but it's not going to stop your body from craving it. Therefore, if you get rid of the craving, then you no longer need to go get those things. You no longer need to spend the money to get those things, and then this way you don't spend away the money you need for other things. Let's say you're somebody who likes shopping, random shopping, and you spend $200-300 every time you do that. Well, if you get rid of that need of doing that, wanting that, well, therefore, then you won't have that debt, that lack of money, and you'll have a surplus of money without having to invoke or ask for money. You're simply banishing a part of you that you no longer can sustain. And it's a good way to use the law of correspondences. As above, so below, as within, so without. You get rid of something within, and then you have more without. Anyways, that's probably going to be enough for today. I'm going to probably give you a little bit more on both of these as I go through the main ones that are used directly during your magic. I find these two are more for the programming aspect of what magic is, the programming that we have within us. But these are just two beginning ones, and I wanted to put something out here today because I said I would. Smaller episode. I don't think I'm going to put on anything after this. However, I never know. So you might get either some Watts or some Kabbalion. Who knows? But, you know, if you do, it'll most likely be the Kabbalion. It'll most likely be the explanations for these two. But, you know, that's going to take time, and it's pretty late already. I think it's like 12 something now. Fucking 12:30, yeah. So, but anyways, these are just the two beginning principles, the law of mentalism and the law of correspondence. Now, the law of correspondence isn't done. I have a lot more in my notes of how this actually pertains to magic, but I'm either going to start off the next episode with finishing off this one, or just moving on to the next one, the law of vibration, then polarity, then cause and effect. I don't know. I don't really know how I'm going to continue to keep doing these things like this. I don't know if it's going to... But anyways, I really want to get more specific into how you do your magic using these principles. So expect the next episode to be more in-depth into how you word your magic, do your sigil, do your candle, maybe even do your ritual. But anyways, yeah, so that's it for today, and I hope you enjoyed, and have yourself a great fucking day.
Chapter 4 of the Kabbalion by 3 Initiates. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 4. The All. Under and back of the universe of time, space and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth. The Kabbalion. Substance means that which underlies all outward manifestations, the essence, the essential reality, the thing in itself, etc. Substantial means actually existing, being the essential element, being real, etc. Reality means the state of being real, true, enduring, valid, fixed, permanent, actual, etc. Under and behind all outward appearances or manifestations, there must always be a substantial reality. This is the law. Man, considering the universe, of which he is a unit, sees nothing but change in matter, forces, and mental states. He sees that nothing really is, but that everything is becoming and changing. Nothing stands still. Everything is being born, growing, dying. The very instant a thing reaches its height, it begins to decline. The law of rhythm is in constant operation. There is no reality, enduring quality, fixity, or substantiality in anything. Nothing is permanent but change. He sees all things evolving from other things and resolving into other things, a constant action and reaction, inflow and outflow, building up and tearing down, creation and destruction, birth, growth and death. Nothing endures but change. And if he be a thinking man, he realizes that all of these changing things must be but outward appearances or manifestations of some underlying power, some substantial reality. All thinkers in all lands and in all times have assumed the necessity for postulating the existence of this substantial reality. All philosophies worthy of the name have been based upon this thought. Men have given this substantial reality many names. Some have called it by the name of deity, under many titles. Others have called it the infinite and eternal energy. Others have tried to call it matter, but all have acknowledged its existence. It is self-evident. It needs no argument. In these lessons we have followed the example of some of the world's greatest thinkers, both ancient and modern, the Hermetic masters, and have called this underlying power, this substantial reality, by the Hermetic name of the All, which term we consider the most comprehensive of the many terms applied by man to that which transcends names and terms. We accept and teach the view of the great Hermetic thinkers of all times, as well as of those illumined souls who have reached higher planes of being, both of whom assert that the inner nature of the All is unknowable. This must be so, for naught by the All itself can comprehend its own nature and being. The Hermetists believe and teach that the All, in itself, is and must ever be unknowable. They regard all the theories, guesses and speculations of the theologians and metaphysicians regarding the inner nature of the All as but the childish efforts of mortal minds to grasp the secret of the infinite. Such efforts have always failed and will always fail from the very nature of the task. One pursuing such inquiries travels around and around in the labyrinth of thought until he is lost to all sane reasoning, action or conduct, and is utterly unfitted for the work of life. He is like the squirrel which frantically runs around and around the circling treadmill wheel of his cage, travelling ever and yet reaching nowhere, at the end a prisoner still and standing just where he started. And still more presumptuous are those who attempt to ascribe to the All the personality, qualities, properties, characteristics and attributes of themselves, ascribing to the All the human emotions, feelings and characteristics, even down to the pettiest qualities of mankind, such as jealousy, susceptibility to flattery and praise, desire for offerings and worship, and all the other survivals from the days of the childhood of the race. Such ideas are not worthy of grown men and women and are rapidly being discarded. At this point, it may be proper for me to state that we make a distinction between religion and theology, between philosophy and metaphysics. Religion, to us, means that intuitional realization of the existence of the All and one's relationship to it, while theology means the attempts of men to ascribe personality, qualities, and characteristics to it, their theories regarding its affairs, will, desires, plans and designs, and their assumption of the office of middlemen between the All and the people. Philosophy, to us, means the inquiry after knowledge of things knowable and thinkable, while metaphysics means the attempt to carry the inquiry over and beyond the boundaries and into regions unknowable and unthinkable, and with the same tendency as that of theology. And consequently, both religion and philosophy mean to us things having roots in reality, while theology and metaphysics seem like broken reeds, rooted in the quicksands of ignorance and affording naught but the most insecure support for the mind or soul of man. We do not insist upon our students accepting these definitions. We mention them merely to show our position. At any rate, you shall hear very little about theology and metaphysics in these lessons. That which is the fundamental truth, the substantial reality, is beyond true naming, but the wise men call it the All, the Kybalion. In its essence, the All is unknowable, the Kybalion. But the report of reason must be hospitably received and treated with respect, the Kybalion. The human reason, whose reports we must accept so long as we think at all, informs us as follows regarding the All, and that without attempting to remove the veil of the unknowable. 1. The All must be all that really is. There can be nothing existing outside of the All, else the All would not be the All. 2. The All must be infinite, for there is nothing else to define, confine, bound, limit, or restrict the All. It must be infinite in time, or eternal. It must have always continually existed, for there is nothing else to have ever created it, and something can never evolve from nothing. And if it had ever not been, even for a moment, it would not be now. It must continually exist forever, for there is nothing to destroy it, and it can never not be, even for a moment, because something can never become nothing. It must be infinite in space. It must be everywhere, for there is no place outside of the all. It cannot be otherwise than continuous in space, without break, cessation, separation or interruption, for there is nothing to break, separate or interrupt its continuity, and nothing with which to fill in the gaps. It must be infinite in power, or absolute, for there is nothing to limit, restrict, restrain, confine, disturb, or condition it. It is subject to no other power, for there is no other power. 3. The all must be immutable, or not subject to change in its real nature, for there is nothing to work changes upon it, nothing into which it could change, nor from which it could have changed. It cannot be added to, nor subtracted from, increased, nor diminished, nor become greater or lesser in any respect whatsoever. It must have always been, and must always remain, just what it is now. The all. There has never been, is not now, and never will be anything else into which it can change. The all being infinite, absolute, eternal, and unchangeable, it must follow that anything finite, changeable, fleeting, and conditioned cannot be the all. And as there is nothing outside of the all, in reality, then any and all such finite things must be as nothing in reality. Now do not become befogged nor frightened. We are not trying to lead you into the Christian Science field under cover of Hermetic philosophy. There is a reconciliation of this apparently contradictory state of affairs. Be patient. We will reach it in time. We see around us that which is called matter, which forms the physical foundation of all forms. Is the all merely matter? Not at all. Matter cannot manifest life or mind, and as life and mind are manifested in the universe, the all cannot be matter, for nothing rises higher than its own source. Nothing is ever manifested in an effect that is not in the cause. Nothing is evolved as a consequence that is not involved as an antecedent. And then modern science informs us that there is really no such thing as matter, that what we call matter is merely interrupted energy or force, that is, energy or force at a low rate of vibration. As a recent writer has said, matter has melted into mystery. Even material science has abandoned the theory of matter and now rests upon the basis of energy. Then is the all mere energy or force? Not energy or force as the materialists use the terms, for their energy and force are blind, mechanical things, devoid of life or mind. Life and mind can never evolve from blind energy or force, for the reason given a moment ago. Nothing can rise higher than its source. Nothing is evolved unless it is involved. Nothing manifests in the effect unless it is in the cause. And so the all cannot be mere energy or force, for if it were, then there would be no such things as life and mind in existence. And we know better than that, for we are alive and using mind to consider this very question, and so are those who claim that energy or force is everything. What is there then higher than matter or energy that we know to be existent in the universe? Life and mind. Life and mind in all their varying degrees of unfoldment. Then, you ask, do you mean to tell us that the all is life and mind? Yes and no is our answer. If you mean life and mind as we poor petty mortals know them, we say no. The all is not that. But what kind of life and mind do you mean, you ask? The answer is living mind, as far above that which mortals know by those words as life and mind are higher than mechanical forces or matter. Infinite living mind as compared to finite life and mind. We mean that which the illumined souls mean when they reverently pronounce the word spirit. The all is infinite living mind. The illumined call it spirit. End of chapter 4 of the Kybalion by 3 Initiate. Recording is in the public domain. Chapter 5. The Mental Universe. The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. The Kybalion. The all is spirit. But what is spirit? This question cannot be answered, for the reason that its definition is practically that of the all, which cannot be explained or defined. Spirit is simply a name that men give to the highest conception of infinite living mind. It means the real essence. It means living mind, as much superior to life and mind as we know them, as the latter are superior to mechanical energy and matter. Spirit transcends our understanding, and we use the term merely that we may think or speak of the all. For the purposes of thought and understanding.
All right, welcome, ladies and
we are justified in thinking of spirit as infinite living mind, at the same time acknowledging that we cannot fully understand it. We must either do this or stop thinking of the matter at all. Let us now proceed to a consideration of the nature of the universe as a whole and in its parts. What is the universe? We have seen that there can be nothing outside of the all. Then is the universe the all? No, this cannot be, because the universe seems to be made up of many and is constantly changing, and in other ways it does not measure up to the ideas that we are compelled to accept regarding the all, as stated in our last lesson. Then if the universe be not the all, then it must be nothing. Such is the inevitable conclusion of the mind at first thought. But this will not satisfy the question, for we are sensible of the existence of the universe. Then, if the universe is neither the all nor nothing, what can it be? Let us examine this question. If the universe exists at all, or seems to exist, it must proceed in some way from the all. It must be a creation of the all. But as something can never come from nothing, from what could the all have created it? Some philosophers have answered this question by saying the all created the universe from itself, that is, from the being and substance of the all. But this will not do, for the all cannot be subtracted from, nor divided, as we have seen. And then again, if this be so, would not each particle in the universe become aware of its being the all? The all could not lose its knowledge of itself, nor actually become an atom or blind force or lowly living thing. Some men, indeed, realizing that the all is indeed all, and also recognizing that they, the men, existed, have jumped to the conclusion that they and the all were identical, and they have filled the air with shouts of, "I am God," to the amusement of the multitude and the sorrow of sages. The claim of the corpuscle that "I am man" would be modest in comparison. But what indeed is the universe, if it be not the all, not yet created by the all, having separated itself into fragments? What else can it be? Of what else can it be made? This is the great question. Let us examine it carefully. We find here that the principle of correspondence, see Lesson 1, comes to our aid here. The old Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, may be pressed into service at this point. Let us endeavour to get a glimpse of the workings on higher planes by examining those on our own. The principle of correspondence must apply to this as well as to other problems. Let us see. On his own plane of being, how does man create? Well, first, he may create by making something out of outside materials. But this will not do, for there are no materials outside of the all with which it may create. Well then, secondly, man procreates or reproduces his kind by the process of begetting, which is self-multiplication, accomplished by transferring a portion of his substance to his offspring. But this will not do, because the all cannot transfer or subtract a portion of itself, nor can it reproduce or multiply itself. In the first place, there would be a taking away, and in the second case, a multiplication or addition to the all, both thoughts being an absurdity. Is there no third way in which man creates? Yes, there is. He creates mentally, and in so doing, he uses no outside materials, nor does he reproduce himself, and yet his spirit pervades the mental creation. Following the principle of correspondence, we are justified in considering that the all creates the universe mentally, in a manner akin to the process whereby man creates mental images. And here is where the report of reason tallies precisely with the report of the illumined, as shown by their teachings and writings. Such are the teachings of the wise men. Such was the teaching of Hermes. The all can create in no other way except mentally, without either using material, and there is none to use, or else reproducing itself, which is also impossible. There is no escape from this conclusion of the reason, which, as we have said, agrees with the highest teachings of the illumined. Just as you, student, may create a universe of your own in your mentality, so does the all create universes in its own mentality. But your universe is a mental creation of a finite mind, whereas that of the all is the creation of an infinite. The two are similar in kind, but infinitely different in degree. We shall examine more closely into the process of creation and manifestation as we proceed. But this is the point to fix in your minds at this stage. The universe and all it contains is a mental creation of the all. Verily, indeed, all is mind. The all creates in its infinite mind countless universes, which exist for eons of time, and yet to the all, the creation, development, decline and death of 1,000,000 universes is as the time of the twinkling of an eye. The Kybalion. The infinite mind of the all is the womb of universes. The Kybalion. The principle of gender, see Lesson 1 and other lessons to follow, is manifested on all planes of life, material, mental and spiritual. But, as we have said before, gender does not mean sex. Sex is merely a material manifestation of gender. Gender means relating to generation or creation, and wherever anything is generated or created on any plane, the principle of gender must be manifested, and this is true even in the creation of universes. Now do not jump to the conclusion that we are teaching that there is a male and female God, or creator. That idea is merely a distortion of the ancient teachings on the subject. The true teaching is that the all, in itself, is above gender, as it is above every other law, including those of time and space. It is the law from which the laws proceed, and it is not subject to them. But when the all manifests on the plane of generation or creation, then it acts according to law and principle, for it is moving on a lower plane of being, and consequently it manifests the principle of gender in its masculine and feminine aspects, on the mental plane, of course. This idea may seem startling to some of you who hear it for the first time, but you have all really passively accepted it in your everyday conceptions. You speak of the fatherhood of God and the motherhood of nature, of God the Divine Father, and nature the Universal Mother, and have thus instinctively acknowledged the principle of gender. Is this not so? But the Hermetic teaching does not imply a real duality. The all is one. The two aspects are merely aspects of manifestation. The teaching is that the masculine principle manifested by the all stands, in a way, apart from the actual mental creation of the universe. It projects its will toward the feminine principle, which may be called nature, whereupon the latter begins the actual work of the evolution of the universe, from simple centres of activity on to man, then on and on still higher, all according to well-established and firmly enforced laws of nature. If you prefer the old figures of thought, you may think of the masculine principle as God the Father, and of the feminine principle as nature, the universal mother, from whose womb all things have been born. This is more than a mere poetic figure of speech. It is an idea of the actual process of the creation of the universe. But always remember that the all is but one, and that in its infinite mind the universe is generated, created, and exists. It may help you to get the proper idea if you will apply the law of correspondence to yourself and your own mind. You know that the part of you which you call I, in a sense, stands apart and witnesses the creation of mental images in your own mind. The part of your mind in which the mental generation is accomplished may be called the me, in distinction from the I, which stands apart and witnesses and examines the thoughts, ideas, and images of the me. As above, so below, remember? And the phenomena of one plane may be employed to solve the riddles of higher or lower planes. Is it any wonder that you, the child, feel that instinctive reverence for the all, which feeling we call religion, that respect and reverence for the father mind? Is it any wonder that, when you consider the works and wonders of nature, you are overcome with a mighty feeling which has its roots away down in your inmost being? It is the mother mind that you are pressing close up to, like a babe to the breast. Do not make the mistake of supposing that the little world you see around you, the earth, which is a mere grain of dust in the universe, is the universe itself. There are millions upon millions of such worlds, and greater, and there are millions and millions of such universes in existence within the infinite mind of the all. And even in our own little solar system, there are regions and planes of life far higher than ours, and beings compared to which we earthbound mortals are as the slimy life forms that dwell on the ocean's bed when compared to man. There are beings with powers and attributes higher than man has ever dreamed of the gods possessing. And yet these beings were once as you, and still lower, and you will be even as they, and still higher in time, for such is the destiny of man as reported by the illumined. And death is not real, even in the relative sense. It is but birth to a new life, and you shall go on, and on, and on, and on, to higher and still higher planes of life, for eons upon eons of time. The universe is your home, and you shall explore its farthest recesses before the end of time. You are dwelling in the infinite mind of the all, and your possibilities and opportunities are infinite, both in time and space. And at the end of the grand cycle of eons, when the all shall draw back into itself all of its creations, you will go gladly, for you will then be able to know the whole truth of being at one with the all. Such is the report of the illumined, those who have advanced well along the path. And in the meantime, rest calm and serene. You are safe and protected by the infinite power of the Father-Mother mind. Within the Father-Mother mind, mortal children are at home. The Kybalion.
I've just come back from Los Angeles. I was down there to meet with a group of rather important people in the movie industry, scientists and so on, who were considering calling a congress of the best minds in the world to meet in Los Angeles in the near future, to be a kind of planetary alarm conference. They wanted scientists and statesmen, religious leaders, and to do something to impress upon the world through all the media that we are in very serious danger of destroying the biosphere, that is to say, the whole envelope of living creatures which covers this planet, through pollution, overpopulation, nuclear fallout, poisoning of our food, and very lack of food. And we met to discuss the problem of organizing this conference, and here were all these brilliant people. And it came over us that we really didn't know what we ought to say. I mean, you can scream and create a state of panic, but that won't do any good. And when it came down to it, we didn't know what we ought to say because we really don't know what to do. Some things that we might do, for example, to increase the food supply with high-yield crops, may be ecological mistakes. And so the consensus of almost everybody at the meeting was that in some way or other, the human race has to learn how to leave the world alone and let what is called the natural homeostasis, that is the self-balancing process of nature, take care of the mess. Now, how are we going to do that? This is Japanese ceremonial tea. It's good on a cold day. See, our problem is we don't really know how to stop. We've got something started and we see it's going in the wrong direction. And I think the difficulty is to borrow an old Chinese saying, that when the wrong man uses the right means work in the wrong way. In other words, there's something wrong with the way we think. And while that is there, everything we do will be a mess. Now, what is it that's wrong? Now, as far as I can see, the basic mistake is that we've invented this wonderful system of language and calculation, and that it is at once too simple to deal with the complexity of the world, and also we are liable to confuse that system of symbols with the world itself, just as we confuse, say, money with wealth. A lot of people are in business to make money instead of wealth. When they make the money, they don't know what to do with it. And so in the same way, we confuse happiness with status, and we confuse ourselves as living organisms, which are one with this whole universe, with something we call our personality. Now, what is our personality? Our personality is what we call our image of ourselves, and also our thought about ourselves, our idea of ourselves. This is the person. In other words, what people meet and understand, and what I understand as Alan Watts, is a big act which is not really me. Because in the image of Alan Watts, there are not all my unconscious processes, both psychological and physical. The construction of my brain is not contained in the concept Alan Watts, and the concept Alan Watts does not contain the inseparable relationships which I have with all the rest of the universe. And therefore that concept is a fraud. And when it's mistaken for the real me, there's a confusion. Because if somebody says to me, Alan Watts, do something about it, the concept Alan Watts can't do anything. In other words, because it's only a concept, you can't make it lift a weight, just as 3 is a concept. 3, the number. You can't make just plain 3 do anything. So also you can't wrap up parcels with the equator. It's a useful imaginary line, but it can't do anything. But we all feel that this concept of ourselves, which we call our personality or our ego, can do something. Because we think it really exists, and I'll tell you why we think it exists. What happens when if I were to say to you, now look hard at the television screen, really look at it. What do you do as distinct from just watching it in the ordinary way when you say, now I really got to see that? What do? Notice that you tighten muscles all around here, that you frown a little, you clench your teeth perhaps. Now what has that got to do with seeing anything clearly? It has absolutely nothing to do with it. Same thing when you listen carefully. Now listen, catch everything that's said, or you start tightening up around your ears. That has nothing to do with hearing clearly. Now, from the moment we were little children, when teachers in class screamed at us, pay attention, we go tight in various ways. Either to see or hear more clearly, to concentrate, or to will something which is supposed to be difficult to do. And that constitutes a habitual tension over the whole body that's there almost all the time. And that feeling of unnecessary tension is, as it were, the material sensation upon which we fasten this concept of I. We hang it on to that feeling. The concept is not us. The feeling of tension is completely phony. It has nothing to do with success in seeing, hearing, or acting. And so we get the marriage of an illusion with a falsehood. And that we call ourselves. And no wonder we feel cut off from everything, alienated, frightened of life and death. So what has to happen is we have to come back to a sane view of our own life, which is the way we really are, an organism functioning in terms of the whole environment, with the whole environment, instead of this funny little separate personality. But how are we going to do that? People say, oh, you can't change human nature overnight. You're asking us to give up the ego. And that's the most difficult of all things to do. Actually, it isn't. Because the ego doesn't exist. But of course, if you try to give up your ego with your ego, then it'll take you to the end of time. Because this is the point. You can't transform yourself. You can't make yourself sane. You can't make yourself loving. You can't make yourself unselfish. And yet it's absolutely necessary that we be that way. It's absolutely necessary. If we are going to hand over the direction of nature to nature, which is what it comes to, it's absolutely necessary that we let go of ourselves, and it can't be done. Not by anything that we call doing it, acting, willing, or even just accepting things. You can't do it. Why? Because you don't really exist as that kind of a separate ego or personality. It's just an idea based on a phony feeling. So when it comes down to it, it's shocking news for us, for the human race, for our pride. You're only making a mess by trying to put things straight. You're trying to straighten out a wiggly world, and no wonder you're in trouble. So you can't do anything. So you can't transform yourself. And what can you do? What happens then if you actually realize you've come to a dead end? And the human race has come to a dead end, in my opinion. What then? Commit suicide? Or is there something else? What happens when you just wait? There's nothing you can do. You watch. And all you see is what goes on that is happening of itself. You're breathing. The wind is blowing. The trees are waving. Your blood is circulating. Your nerves are tingling. It's all going on of itself. But you know, that's you. That's the real you. The you that goes on of itself. It's not the symbol. It's not the person. It's you that's happening, as when you breathe. Yes, you can get the feeling that I am breathing by shoving your breath, but your breath goes on day in and day out without your doing anything about it or even thinking of it. The same way your brain is functioning without your forcing it. So when you come to a dead end, and we are individually and socially now in 1971 at a dead end, this is the moment of which it is said man's extremity is God's opportunity. Because we have to stop. And when we stop, we find a world that is happening rather than being done, being shoved. And that happening, as distinct from doing, is our fundamental self. And our fundamental self is not something just inside the skin. It's everything around us with which we connect. When you look out of your eyes at nature happening out there, you're looking at you. I'm not going to say what we should do from then on, but simply that before we think of doing anything in this critical situation, we realize the completely illusory nature of the beings that we think we are, and get back again to the beings that we really are, which includes all this outside world, no longer left outside.